It is good to have you back. If you are just joining us, this is Firecrackers. Although we've really moved, but we are about to discuss Buhari's administration 2015 to date, how it has been. And joining us now live from Lagos State is Dr. Yemi Omodele, a legal practitioner. Many thanks for joining us at this time.
Thank you, my sister. And I say happy Sunday to everybody at home. And I
Okay, all
congratulate them
right.
for
Now,
expecting
I'd like to
a
begin with
fresh
my guest
inauguration
here
of new
in the
president.
studio. From 2015 to 2023, how would you rate Buhari's administration?
I think the right way to approach that might be to pick on the three key elements of his campaign in 2014, 2015. Security, anti-corruption, and the economy.
Yes.
So if you take any of them that you take, you will likely see what I call a mixed bag. So let's start from, say, security. When it came in, the Northeast was hot, really hot. In fact, the Boko Haram people were blasting Abuja from time to time. And he himself almost got killed in Abuja, you know. But today, the Northeast is relatively calm. From Yobe to Borno to Adamawa, you know, all those parts are all the states are relatively calm as we speak. However, when you come to the Northwest, a new coloration of insecurity, banditry developed or rose to an unprecedented height during this regime. Banditry had its offshoot from things like castle rustling and all that, and that has been around for a while. But it rose to a crescendo during this administration in the Northwest. So while things settled in the Northeast, things got worse in the Northwest of Nigeria. That's on security. I also do not think he did well at all when it comes to header-farmer problem. Till today, people are still losing lives and limbs and livelihood, and people are getting uprooted from their bases because of farmer header problem. As at the last interview that I watched of him, in which the topic was brought up, he actually said something that made me believe that he still thinks that it is okay to march cattle from Sokoto to Lagos or from Maiduguri to Calabar. That is an archaic approach to cattle farming today. Nomadic farming and the problems that comes with it is not peculiar to Nigeria. It's across the world, including even in the Western world. But all these places have solved the problem. We can solve it too, but we must first of all change our mindset and address the problem for what it is. That problem has a huge economic content, and of course there are the social-cultural side of it. But I will rate him maybe 2/10 in his attempt to do anything with farmer header problem. The issue of sending soldiers or whatever was not going to solve that problem, because it goes way beyond sending soldiers. So he failed in that security part, and I'm hoping that the incoming government will take this serious issue seriously.
Yes, that is true. Now moving to Dr. Omodele. From 2015 to 2023, how would you rate Buhari's administration from your perspective?
You see, for every government has its own challenges. And there is a principle that says human beings cannot be completely satisfied with any administration whatsoever. America, as of today, has her own challenges. United Kingdom also has. Now, coming back to Nigeria here, the outgoing government must have had good intention to deliver. But they get into an office, they met a different ballgame, which must have resulted to the challenges they faced. Now, talk of security, there are challenges there. Economy, there are challenges there. Infrastructure, there are challenges there. Now, the government tried its best, but Nigerians are unable to enjoy the dividends of democracy as expected, particularly based on the manifesto of the party then. Now, look at the infrastructural aspect of it. If you drive from, let's say from Lagos, you pass through Ibadan to Ife to Akure, you will understand what I'm trying to say. Then if you are able to experience between Shagam interchange to Ojota garage in Lagos, you also experience what I'm saying. So on those aspects, I think the government was unable to meet the demands of the populace. Be that as it may, no government can 100% satisfy the citizens. No government, globally, no government can do that. But at least a government that may be scored maybe 55% or 45% can be rated to be fair. But as far as I'm concerned, when you look at the number of days that there was strike action, either Labour Congress, Judicial Service, Judiciary Union, and some other the medical doctors, health workers, and the rest, you see that this government recorded the highest number of strike action. Taking into consideration from the era of Yaradua to the said administration to 2023, it recorded the highest number of strike action. So in that wise, such strike action had one already affected the economy of the country and also had brought us back. Now, I want to say that I can only say that the government merely tried, but unable to fulfill all the promises made during the campaigns in 2015 and probably 2019. So as far as I'm concerned, I would rather advise that the incoming administration should just learn from the lacuna, from the gap that existed during the administration of outgoing president, and try to ensure that the needful is done, so that we can sleep with our two eyes closed, and then we will not be held in traffic for 6 hours. Situation whereby a government contracted a job to a contractor that makes the citizen of the country to be held up in traffic for 6 hours is uncalled for. I think the government, incoming government, should try to look into that. Then aside from that, when it comes to the agricultural sector, as said by the last speaker, without food, there will be more crime and there will be crisis in the country. The agricultural sector should be looked into. The farmers should be assisted so that they will not be intimidated in their farm. And then their produce can move from the rural area to the urban area for the purpose of consumption. The situation whereby a farmer will be going to farm, he will be looking here and there for safety purposes, should be strictly addressed. The country is moving forward, but moving forward entails good governance. So I enjoy the inheritor of the administration to ensure that the promises also made are fulfilled, so that it will not be a linear story. Because I'm not strange to politicians, I'm not new to them. When they are going to an office, when they are contesting, they make unfulfillable promises. They have sugar-coated mouth. They talk a lot of things. When they get there, the ballgame will change. So I think such a thing should not repeat itself. Meanwhile, I will say I congratulate President Muhammadu Buhari, who had kept us in all these challenges for 8 good years. I wish him safe journey to his Daura village, as he said himself. And we've learned a lot under him. We learned sovereign, we learned strike, we learned cashless policy, cash crunch, COVID-19, and the rest. So it's a government that when the government was coming in 2015 there, I can say 75% of Nigerians thought that the government coming in will be the best government so far to be recorded in Nigeria. But having got into an office, 6 months, 1 year after, Nigerians discovered that the thing was not like that. And when 2019 election came again, the campaign style changed. And saying that is to complement and make sure that the needful is done. It came in again, similar thing repeated itself. I want politicians to note one thing, that Nigerians are getting intelligent every day, and we are getting wise every day. In that wise, the strategy of governance also should be improved and should be developed so as to cope with the challenges. Now, I am not unaware of the fact that there were some innocent girls, students at somewhere in Borno State that were, I can say, kidnapped then. Some regained their freedom, while some are yet to regain their freedom. This is not good about a serious government. Then in the northern part of the country, there was some crisis here and there, though reduced, but has not totally eradicated or controlled. I think these areas should be looked at by the incoming government. Then when it comes to the area of education, I am aware that the Academic Staff Union of universities, they went on strike for several months before they were partially pacified, and then they went back to classes. I think this act happened to be what ought not to have happened, because if the students were on campuses as at then, the unexpected end strike then, what do you call it, end SARS then, when students were at home, would have been a bit reduced. But because the students were at home, well, it fueled it more. So I think the outgoing government did not do well when it comes to the educational sector. The lecturers, they should be well taken care of so that they can deliver. Because education is the best globally.
Then, opinion, but a lot of Nigerians seems to go with this opinion that since the advent of modern day democracy, President Muhammadu Buhari's administration is the least enjoyed. Do you subscribe to that?
Views it. But you see, public opinion has its own role to play in democracy. Now, the public opinion is saying that the government is not a fair government. I am aware that there is no government that is perfect. But the government of Alhaji Muhammadu Buhari, to be sincere, Nigerians suffered. The administration that you have money in bank, you could not access it. What a mess. It's uncalled for. So such policy adopted towards the tail end of his administration made a lot of Nigerians to conclude that the government came to power to suffer them for what they have. You have your fund in the bank, you could not get it. Somebody just hold on to that money. You work for this money. You cannot see to spend. That is hardship. And on that basis, people concluded that his administration is not fair to Nigerians. So if 95% of the country says the administration is not fair to the country, what would the 5% do? So I think I queue at the back of the people who say that the administration brought more hardship to them. But be that as it may, he has tried his best to the best of his knowledge, as he has said. He has tried it. But in terms of assessment, in terms of the entire country's assessment, he performed below what people expected him to do. People thought that as in 1983, when he was the military head, that the method he used then to ensure that everything was made though under dictatorial, but that he would be agile and be ready to do the needful, was what he was bringing as at 2015. When getting there, the ball game changed. So I think what changed the system? What changed the system only God knows. But I think his successor is also from his political party. So his successor, I just say that his successor should try to correct such impression, so that Nigerians will say, okay, it was administration of A that didn't do well, but administration
We
B.
really appreciate your input.
It's a lesson to the incoming government.
Yes, and that's Dr. Yemi Omodele. We truly appreciate his presence on Galaxy TV News. Hopefully, we'll be able to get him here in the studio. Maybe in the coming week, he would share more of his opinion with us. And now, with the question I asked earlier, because according to public opinion, Buhari's administration is one of the least enjoyed. But to be fair to him, a whole lot of things have happened from 2015 to 2023. Do we still hold him responsible, or it's just unfavorable circumstances?
Well, it's a mix of many things. I also read two national dailies on Friday had some, is it Vox Pop, or what do they call it?
Yes.
Yeah. And when you go through those comment from the citizen, it's a mixed bag. So there were citizens who said, oh look, he passed several laws, that the PIB that has been on the table for 13 years was passed under this administration, that the electoral law was better. Even the electoral process via the introduction of beavers, because there were a lot of people who confused the issue of beavers' performance with transmission of election results. When it comes to the performance of beavers, it was phenomenal. Anybody who voted in that election knows that beavers will find you within 30 seconds. You know. And so both the law and the introduction of beavers were fantastic. There was a revision to CAMA. CAMA is the Company and Other Matters Act. There were other legislation that were passed. There were some people who said he completed many projects that he inherited.
Yes.
And that is contrary to what we have seen with many other administrations.
Even so as far back as 33 years ago.
Yes. Projects are just abandoned. Once you come, you start looking for your own project. But he had this meticulous approach to closing out some of those projects, and he did. Some said if infrastructure, yes, the rails, the roads, the airport terminals, even the private establishment like the refinery, the Dangote refinery, got birth under this administration, albeit it has started, at a rudimentary level at some point. So there were positive side. Of course, there were also the bad side. I've spoken today about how I don't think he did well with how he handled farmer header problem. Some of the policies, CBN getting wrapped up in politics was not a very nice thing. So that when people talk about cashless policy and the way it was implemented in Nigeria in the last few months, they don't have good words about it. So there were also issues that have been lingering for a long time that people thought, oh, maybe he will be able to do something about it. Funding of tertiary education was one of them. Healthcare problem was one of them, and most of those issues were not resolved. I'm happy though that he said there is now a 21 billion naira healthcare facility in Nassau Rock. Of course, when he came in, there wasn't anything worthy of attending there, which was why he said, well, he attended almost all his own healthcare outside the country.
Yes.
But he left a 21 billion naira project, healthcare center there. Hopefully the incoming government will use it. Hopefully it will maintain it and probably even upgrade it further, so that we stop insulting ourselves by having the president go to other countries to go and receive healthcare. It is not proper.
Okay, all right, and let's not forget about the COVID-19 and then
Yes.
the Ukraine-Russia war that affected almost every sector of the world.
Yeah, the economy, when you talk about the economic problems, there are two sides to it. There is a global one over which we have absolutely no control. Energy crisis, food crisis, which was global. There is global part. But there are also the internal one that we could have done better. Issues about how insecurity affected farmers is within our own control. It's something we could have done better. And a few other things that are within, which we didn't step up to the right level.
Yes, all right, thank you so much. It has been so interesting. I almost don't want this to end, but fortunately we are running out of time. Yeah, thank you so much for being on Firecrackers. We truly appreciate your views.
Thanks for having me.
And that's Bola Olejede, an economy expert. Many thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate your coming.
And unfortunately, this is where we draw the curtain close on today's episode of Firecrackers. My name is Reba Misalako.